We got to mix the mission statement with the idea that everything is relevant. Our stand-up is relevant. Living in New York is relevant because it's all how to deal with day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Is that generally it? Yeah. And how the littlest things in the world ruin your whole outlook on life just because of one day when it's really not that big of a deal, but we've got to find a way to deal with our fucking anger, basically.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Power of How. I'm Matt Fulcheron. I'm here with Brendan Tassif. I'm here with Daniel Torado.
How are you guys?
What's up?
I may be a true New Yorker.
What happened?
I'm not sure.
No such thing.
But, well, I don't know that I'll ever be a real New Yorker because I moved here when I was 43. So it's like
Right.
I'd have to live till I was 86 here to really be a New Yorker. I think you need at least half your life.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't even think that's accurate, but I want to hear this story.
Well, I'm an honorary member. Because
okay.
I got to the show early last night. It's at this trendy place called the Ned Hotel.
Yeah.
And
Great
I'm
spot.
in the restaurant having a beer, and the restaurant just starts freaking out all of a sudden. And I'm like, oh shit, somebody must be choking. Somebody must be passing out. Something's going on.
Yeah.
People are flipping out. And then I see people are kind of doing the wave through the restaurant, like all standing up. And I go, it's just a rat. And I go back to drinking. And the bartender actually goes, you local? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I could tell. You
Hell
didn't flip out.
Hell yeah, man.
So that is something.
Yeah.
That is something.
You know, I feel like I remember reading this. I forget where it was. One of those silly websites or 10 signs that you're a true New Yorker. Okay.
If you're reading that, you're not a true New Yorker.
Yeah, you got to cross the Brooklyn Bridge.
Ow!
Hey. And you know what's funny? I have friends like my buddy Corey. I don't know if you guys know him, Corey Fernandez. He's a Puerto Rican comic. He's out in LA right now. And born and raised in Brooklyn and Canarsie, more specifically, the hood. Like I went to visit him once, man, and he tells me to meet him at 11 o'clock.
At night?
Yeah, little did I know what Canarsie was.
Like outside?
Yeah, from
at
Montreal.
11?
What
were you guys up to in the first place?
We're going to a gig. We're going to a gig. Like I remember once I had this gig on a street called it was in the hood in the Bronx on Gun Hill Road, and it's called Gun Hill Road. And I show up and I tell Corey, I got a gig on Gun Hill Road, and he said, you, what time's your gig at? It's like it's at midnight. It's like it's a bar show. It's like, you can't go there alone.
Shit.
You can't go there.
That sounds
alone.
like a dare.
It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I'll give you. I got a spot for you.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's on Gun Hill Road at midnight.
And he says,
Bring cash.
And he says, I will go with you from Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. He's gonna escort me to go to this gig.
Right.
And I'm like,
meet me on AK-15 Avenue.
So, dude, that's funny you say that, man, because that was close to my opening punchline. So I show up there, and as soon as I step out of the subway, you have people trying to get you into in their cabs, but they're not cab drivers.
Right.
They're not licensed cab drivers.
Yeah.
They're just people who just want money from you so they can drive you.
They're like Uber without the app.
Yeah, well, without the license, without anything. They're just people.
Not even a driver's license,
Do you need a ride? Do you need a ride anywhere? Do you need a ride? And
they're at the airport,
There's
these
like
guys.
5 of them.
Right.
And that's when I started understanding, okay, this is very strange. I meet Corey outside. We walk like a couple of blocks. It's so sketchy. And I get to it's a bar show. And it's hood. It's like it's hood.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hood.
Yeah.
I'm obviously the only white dude, and I'm up first.
Right.
Of course, let's throw him to the wolves, and I'm there, and that's what I love about comedy, man. It's like if you are just honest, if you are truthful, you will never ever fail. So I said, "There's no way that I can kickstart this with a joke. It's never going to work." So the first thing I said was, "Hi guys, I am petrified. And then right away, they loosened up. I got a really good laugh because I probably did look petrified. And like these guys, they were checking people for guns to get in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is pretty much what you said. I said I googled this place, of all places, on a street called Gun Hill Road. Turns out it's between Machete Lane and I'll Fuck You Up Boulevard. And then second laugh, and then it was just I warmed them up, and then I got into the bit, and it was beautiful. I couldn't believe it went well.
Yeah.
So all this to say, Corey's from Canarsie. Corey's a true New Yorker, born and raised. True Puerto Rican, because he doesn't speak Spanish, as we discussed this once.
Right.
And we're there, and he's like, "Yo, man, I've been here all my life, and I've never crossed the Brooklyn Bridge." And that's how you know you're a true New Yorker.
Yeah.
Like not these little stupid, like you get your pizzas at Joe's, whatever.
Yeah.
And but it is so true what you're saying about just being desensitized to rats.
Oh yeah, you see one every day at least.
Yeah.
At least
every day,
and you're prepared
every day.
You're like, this rat could come out. I've had a squirrel
in your home
grab a hold of me and just start shaking me in Union Square.
When I first moved here, we'd have mice that little house mouse would run across, and we would freak out. And like move all the furniture and do everything. And then after a while, it was just like, okay, one's in the house. We'll set a trap.
Yeah,
and we'll be all right.
Yeah, right.
We had a whole episode on
killing.
Traps, killing or not killing.
It's good to be a little under the radar so PETA doesn't know what's going on. We've been fine with that episode out. But
how was the show?
The show was funny because I went up with a good attitude, and because I saw, no disrespect to the host, but the host was like couldn't get it going. Well, I don't want to say because.
Wait, but the host is not a comic.
The host is a comic, and the host is very good at what he does. But it was just one of those things where it was not. The momentum was not there. By the time he called me up,
because I'm only asking this because the other times I did that show, the person bringing up the comics was not a comic.
Well, I'm telling you,
right?
This
so
guy
that's why
is a comic. And he brought me up, and I just went with it. I got plenty of laughs. None of those good. Maybe like two of those satisfying where you're like, I got everybody on that one.
Right.
But at least for some reason they were listening to me. And it's not the host's fault. He went up there cold, and they were barely listening to him, and then when they would be offended by everything he said.
Right.
And I went up there, and they were definitely like listening to me right away. And there was also some guy in there. Someone told me he was famous, but that's fame.
That's just weird.
That's fame nowadays. Everybody in the room knew who this guy was.
They just probably had a lot of Instagram followers.
It's an Instagram follower type guy, and the guy looks like he's famous. He's wearing all white with a white beanie.
Oh,
he looks like Vincent Chance's Entourage, like part 2, the reboot.
Right.
And I just went up there, and it's all about attitude. Like I could have easily bombed, and when I say bombed, I could have easily gotten frustrated and panicked and everything. But I kept it fun, and I think that's the difference. Is as long as you're having fun, you're not bombing.
It's contagious.
Yeah.
And
it's also just not embarrassing.
Right.
So the downward spiral never starts.
Right.
Yeah, because the audience can feel it. I've noticed that when I get on stage, if the first couple jokes don't hit, I will start to panic.
Yeah.
And the audience feeds off my panic.
Yeah.
And then it turns into this whole oh, this guy's full of shit. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm finally remembering that I'm funny as an ad-libber.
Yeah.
So I've gone back to a style I used to do a long time ago where I'll tell a joke, and then I'll talk about what was happening during the joke. Like, this motherfucker's not listening to this. Because I'll get bored. Like, if they're bored, I get bored.
Yeah.
And so I just start looking at around the room with people, and I'm like, oh, okay, as soon as I tell the punchline, I'm going to get the real laugh after this.
Right.
And the jokes are good because I do shows where crowd work or ad-libbing isn't part of it. Like when I do these big shows, opening for Segura or Tosh, you're not fucking around. You're doing your material.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's when material is called for, and that's how I know the material is good.
Right.
But then, in a room, there's just so many variables.
Yeah.
And there's so much other shit going on, including the entire world is in the audience's pocket now. And so they could just, they're dying to get on that phone.
Yeah.
People don't like to put their phone away for an hour and a half. No way. But I also knew that the tough part about going up first is you really have to push that car uphill.
Yeah, yeah.
But the upside is, you know, you only have to do 10 minutes so you can go hard because the other comics are there. Like if you go up like fifth, they're like, yeah, Godfrey's not here yet. So just go until I light you. And it's hard to strategize when you don't know how much time you're doing.
Yeah.
For me anyways, I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know. Some hosts just laugh. They go, just do it till I light you. And I'm like, motherfucker, right. I want an exit strategy. I want to say some shit that's going to be like uncomfortable. And I want to know how much time I have after that.
Or before you get there.
Yeah. I just want to know what kind of mission I'm going on.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and it's one of those things too where I've done shows at major clubs where the host is like, I'm like, hey, do you have the lineup? And he goes, oh, I'll just come and get you before you go up. And I'm like, okay, well, how long are we doing? He goes, we'll figure it out.
No.
And this is at like a big club, and I'm like, come on, man. Like, this is not how this works.
There's only one club that could do that, I think.
And it wasn't that club.
It wasn't that club. Wow.
I can think of 2 clubs that do it. And there's this there's this attitude like, what are you, a rookie? Just fucking, you're on call.
Right.
I'm like, no, motherfucker.
They're like, oh, do you have a set to get to? And I'm like, well, no. And they go, okay, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, just don't worry about it. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, no, it's 10:30 at night. I don't have another set to get to.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool, guys.
Yeah, but you just know you're going to have to deal with that. So it's nice when you don't have to deal with that. I would have preferred the show started on time. Yeah. But whatever, you can't have everything. I'm just happy to go up.
But you know, even in that room, there's I haven't seen anyone, and I've only been to 3 shows and 2 I performed, but that specific room, I didn't see anyone off the top like kill. You know, it's just oh
yeah.
It's such a different vibe.
Yeah, no, there's tons of rooms. See, I knew what I was playing. There's tons of rooms like that in LA, where like the club kids go to, like not even the cool kids, but like the fucking people who
the
think
money
the rich people,
the money kids.
Yeah, which is hilarious. They're not actually the cool kids, and they don't know it. But and there's another room I do just like that in Soho. That I do, where it's just like you have to be everybody
Soho
there.
House?
Yeah, they're like you have to be in the club.
Yeah.
To go to the show. You know what I mean? Like they're members of this exclusive club. And I'm like, hey, you know, I'm behind on rent. And they're like, what are these problems?
Right.
What's wrong with you?
Your accountant doesn't take care of your bills? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
But I also, but this show, and I'm glad I didn't have to face it. It's, you say like Leonardo DiCaprio is in the audience sometimes. Yeah. And they were telling me that Chris Rock shows up, and the famous people show up late, so someone famous is gonna walk down the aisle there in your set.
Does Chris Rock
the Wolf of Wall Street? What?
No, he didn't do time.
No, he just sits there and watches the show.
God, that would be fucking.
He was there when I played, and it's so funny because the host was struggling with this audience, and I started putting 2 and 2 together because I saw the people walk in. So I see a lot of models. I see a lot of. I hear a lot of foreigners. Mm-hmm. So I established that this is probably like English is for most of the audience. English is not the first language,
which is always a plus,
right?
For you.
Well, I was going to say he knows 4 of them,
right. No, but I'm not. You know, with 10 minutes, I want to do jokes.
Yeah,
and also. If I'm the first one up, I kind of feel that responsibility of like really getting it going, you know? Mm-hmm. So I told myself, you know, let me do the more simplistic jokes, you know, just to get them going and, you know, not focus on the stuff I really want to do or, you know, or the edgier stuff. And then, so I'm in the middle of my set and it's going fine, you know, but then someone walks in halfway through and I start kind of shitting on that person for showing up late. And so I said, well, I guess I'm going to have to start my whole act again. So as he sits down, I retell the whole first joke again, and that gets everyone engaged because I'm literally verbatim telling the joke over. And then I said, and well, the punch, you don't deserve it. to that dude, who so happened to be Chris Rock. And I had no clue because you can't see anything in there. And then I step off the stage, and again, I didn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't do like the stuff like if I knew like a great comic, a legend, you fuck the audience.
Right.
You're just gonna do what you love doing, and the edge.
Show them you're an artist.
Right? Yes.
Show them you're an artist.
Make that huge mistake.
This is why we play the game.
And then, but it's so tricky because you want to read the room, you want to kickstart the show, you want to make everyone happy. But then there's always something to sacrifice. There is always something to sacrifice. And then
what I'm saying is, as long as it's not your dignity, we're good.
Let's go.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I did the same thing to Chris Rock.
I remember,
2006 at the Comedy Store. He walks in through the back, and these are the days at the Comedy Store where you go up after 11 and it's just a shit show.
Yeah.
And like you're just.
But that's when the Comedy Store was the Comedy Store.
That's
didn't transition yet.
That's a tough system, or a tough statement. It's like it was before it was the dark ages.
Right. Yeah.
So it was popular in the 80s. Went to shit in the 90s and into the 2000s. Right. And then as soon as Joe Rogan, Bill Burr, and Mark Maron started podcasting and talking about going there, that's when it blew up again. The Renaissance. But this was in the dark ages, and I just start like shitting on the person who's walking through the room because you're looking for anything up there. And I'm not shitting on him. I was just going like, hey, dude,
thing. Right.
Just like what you did. Oh, you showed up late. What's going on? And it was so dark in there. I just kind of see him kind of barely look, but I couldn't really even see him.
Right.
And then I got off stage, and the guy in the ticket window was like, dude, why are you fucking with Chris Rock? I was like, God damn it. Yeah. I know. I woke up with and it's true too. And it was like you had a good idea with yours. You had like a bit. I was just like drowning and like grasping for fucking anything that was going to keep me afloat. And it wasn't very intelligent, smart, strategic, insightful. It was an experiment that went wrong.
Right.
A lot of times the experiment goes right. You know.
Well, the idea was working until I said the punchline was like, and the punchline, you don't deserve it. No one laughed because I think they were aware of who he was. Yeah. So I'm telling Chris Rock that he doesn't deserve
comedy.
So it's like,
dude.
Yeah, but now, you know, if I ever play that room again, man, sometimes you just have to like do what you want to do.
Wouldn't that be great if he rushed the stage and slapped you? Like it was all
just did the reverse Will Smith.
Like that's his bit now,
dude. I'd have a live show on Netflix. But it's tricky, man. It's tricky to stick to. It's tricky to read the room because even after all these years, sometimes you can misread a room.
Yeah.
You know what I find fascinating about comedy, about comedy crowds is how the energy in the room always agrees with each other. Mm-hmm. Like the people whatever you can have a killer set that you do all the time, but for whatever reason the audience decides together in a moment that it's not funny, and I never understood that.
There's a momentum to it.
Yeah, but sometimes a crowd is really divided, and it's really weird because it's always left to right. It's not pockets.
It's true.
It's always left to right, which I don't get after years of doing comedy.
I think that just shows you how contagious it is.
That's what I was going to say.
If you hear people next to you laughing, you start to go, oh, maybe this is funny. Like it's permission for you to laugh at the next joke.
I love that. That's
You're
so
like,
much,
I like this
great.
guy. He's laughing. So I think I have permission to laugh too. I don't have to be, because a lot of people show up with like a court jester mentality, like fucking dance for me, like do it. I'm not going to want to like you. You can see it on their face, and then slowly but surely, and even sometimes, and this is like more of an acting thing probably that you know, if you make eye contact with somebody and show them like you're a real human being and. Like they all of a sudden like loosen up, like, oh, this is a person. This isn't some fucking Chuck E. Cheese animatronic robot. This is a guy. You know?
And it's so funny that you say court jester because like, you know, my dad was, you know, I had this conversation. I was telling this to my dad, but I had a conversation with, I don't know, like, I think it was an audience member, and he was like, he said something like, you know, you're the court jester. I forget what it was specifically, but he you know, he obviously didn't take this job seriously, like what we do as a serious job.
Right.
And I was like, do you know who the court jester is? Like the court jester, especially in like Shakespearean plays, he's the only one who can tell the truth.
Yeah.
And he's the only one that will not get killed for it.
Right.
And he's the only one that stands by the king, who has divine right.
Yeah.
Who has he's the sidekick of the monarchy.
Right.
And that's as close as you ever get without, you know, lineage.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, yeah, I'm a fucking court jester. What the fuck do you do?
They
You
said
know what I
that
mean?
to the wrong guy.
Right.
That's what I was just thinking.
They said that to the wrong fucking guy.
No, but it's
Thank you very much.
Yeah, actually, history lesson, kids.
I am proud to be a court jester.
Hell yeah.
To stand that close to the king. I think that's what's lacking today in politics.
A king?
No, court jester.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because, you know, comics become the court jesters, but they're not in the court.
Yeah,
you know?
no.
But
Unless they are.
How great would it be if you'd still have a court jester next to Biden or next to, well, now today I feel like they are their own court jesters.
And also the opposition is very much the jester as well.
Right,
you know?
right. But what a wonderful tradition to have someone just constantly speak the truth, be the wisdom. You know, the wisest things come out from the court jester.
And they could talk shit about the king, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
they could talk shit about anyone and get away with it.
But don't they famously push it too far? Like, and then
they never
get killed.
They never get killed.
Never get killed.
Never get killed.
Oh, okay.
They never
They
get.
get, they get a return engagement.
Well,
they have a residency.
I don't know. Pretty much. I don't know if they historically they ever got killed. That I don't know. But in plays, you know, they are the voice of the truth.
Yeah. They have room for error. In other words, it's okay as long as they're truthful. They're okay.
Yeah,
for the most part.
And they call out all the bullshit. They call out like the secret love affairs. They are the counsel, the comedy, the wisdom. And they are untouchable. Because they're buffoons.
I just thought
member of the court.
Yeah, and if you look like a buffoon, technically no one will take you seriously.
Yeah.
So
I just thought of my Instagram page that I'll never do, Court Jester. And it'll be all stand-up comedy standing next to a king.
Right.
And then just like a whole page of Court Jester. It would be great, but I don't have the energy.
Somebody take it and run with it.
Somebody go with that.
Fiverr.
Yeah.
I think another big thing, too, is sometimes when you walk into a room and people have that, like, well, make me laugh clown kind of look.
Yeah.
I think it's because... And this might be way out there, but comedy itself, making other people laugh, is a very unique gift. But it's something that you think happens almost spontaneously. So I think a lot of people almost resent this idea of, I'm going to go to a space where these people can do it on demand. That's why they go in there with that mindset, like, yeah, I bet you can't make me laugh. Like, try to make me laugh.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, like, laughter is supposed to be spontaneous and out of the blue. There's no way that this person who's, like, practiced this and this is their job, there's no way that they can just do it on a whim.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why they go in there with that mentality of, like, yeah, I bet you can't make me laugh.
I'm going to bet, too, that most of the people with that attitude get in for free. Most people that pay have a different attitude.
Absolutely.
Right.
And there's always
there's a sense of excitement.
There's always at the comedy clubs they always give away like tons of free tickets.
Pay for the room.
Unless it says special engagement in the calendar. And people come in for free and they act like it's for free. They see no value on the show.
Yep.
They're like, why is this show free? Probably because it sucks.
Yeah.
And they go in just like that show was free last night.
Right.
And the general consensus of that audience is not that they're a shitty audience. It's just they don't know any better. And so no one really gets mad at that audience at that cool show because we know they're there with the best of intentions. They just don't live on the same planet that we live on.
But that's what's sad. They do live on the same planet. We're just not a part of that world, you know?
Yeah.
But I agree with you, but I also think they are not people who go to comedy shows.
No way.
Yeah.
So they don't know how to respond. It's like when you do a college gig, like a lot of the kids, they've never been to a comedy show.
Yeah.
So they don't know how to respond to... They don't know if it's okay to laugh and not to laugh.
I'm offended.
Right, exactly.
You guys want to go to the offended rally tonight?
Right. So that's what I think is an issue, and it's true. When you pay to see a show, you're more excited you want to laugh. You're out there because you deserve to laugh. But some people, and also I think Netflix also killed in some ways. It being oversaturated, that a lot of so many people tell me, like, man, when I watch comedy on Netflix, or not only Netflix but television
everywhere,
it's just not funny because they don't get that it's a live experience.
There's such a tension and a pressure
and pride
to the situation,
and pride to not laugh.
Yes, that it really is. If that audience is laughing, it's a huge, huge thing. It's a moment that you can feel.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas if you watch it on TV and you assume there's going to be laughter and you know they can add laughter, then it's just not that interesting. At that point, it is a guy talking. So, like, if you're in the room with the person talking, it's very exciting.
Right.
If you're watching something that's already been taped, there's no stakes. It's already done.
Yeah.
The whole thing's already done.
It's done 6 months ago.
That's why it was interesting that Chris Rock did that live thing, because it's not exactly the same experience, but it does throw an element of, oh my God, how's this going to go?
Yeah.
Whereas most stuff you watch on TV, you know how it's going to go. The person's going to kill whether they killed it or they did it. It's going to be recreated.
Absolutely.
Joe, you guys know Joe Matarese?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. I love Joe.
I love Joe.
Yeah.
Joe was the first New York comic that I met in Montreal.
Yeah.
And his comedy blew me away because I never saw that style of comedy.
Yeah.
And I still remember one of his first jokes when he came to Montreal. He was like, he went to a movie theater, and some people are just so chatty.
Yeah,
like they ended up being on the credits as chatty bitch number 1 and chatty bitch number 2. And dude, he's such a funny dude.
Yeah,
and I saw him. He did a gala just for laughs a few years ago. I think it was 2010.
Yeah,
and it was so funny because Joe, I always looked up to Joe. Now we're good buddies.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, he was like kind of like my comedy hero. You know? He would come to Montreal every now and then, but he kept calling me David instead of Daniel, and I wouldn't say anything. I was like, I'll be David for Joe.
Yeah. As long as it's David in your phone, it's fine.
Right. So Joe was. I see him at the Just for Laughs. I saw the taping of the gala. And I hit him up. I'm like, yo, I just saw your gala. You murdered. He's like, what are you talking about, man? I bombed so badly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you killed. He's like, well, they edited the shit out of that clip because I did horribly. People were walking in, interrupting my set.
Yeah.
And I saw none of that.
No, I know. I saw myself killing on NBC when I bombed.
Wow.
And you can see it on my face that I'm bombing.
Yeah.
But then the laughter is like, they're cutting to people dying. And then that affected the way I did my half-hour special. That and watching Daniel Tosh tape his and Mitch Hedberg. They put out a Comedy Central of Mitch Hedberg's unedited half-hour special. And it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a fucking mess.
Is it really?
But it's hilarious. Because they don't get him at all.
Yeah.
But
he gets him eventually. They get him eventually. Right. After half an hour.
But he does double his time.
Right.
And then he starts doing jokes that he knows he's not supposed to do, have already been done. He's like, I definitely want my special to be funny. And so he just goes with like, he's past like what he's supposed to be doing. You know, there's a certain amount of clear jokes when you do a show like that. And then he starts doing jokes he's not supposed to be doing. And he just kills. And that all had an effect on me. And Tosh will also like stop in between a joke. Treating it like taping a show.
Yeah.
Instead of you have to remember that you're playing to the cameras and not the audience there.
Yeah.
And that's what I did on my half-hour special. After about 3 minutes of not really loving the audience, I stopped and I just...
talked about this.
Have we talked about this on this show?
No, not on this show, on my show. So this is hilarious.
I just stopped and I go, I see a lot of unhappy faces in the audience. I'm like, but I don't care. This is my special. We're going to edit it so I'm killing. So, like, fuck off.
Right.
And they were mine after that. And I did more shit like that. I kept it so goddamn loose and took the piss out of it that they were having the best time. And unfortunately, they cut a lot of that out. They cut it down to what was agreed to.
They did keep some of it in, because I just recently rewatched it.
Yeah.
They did keep some of it in where it's like, you'll say a joke, and then, like you were just talking about earlier, you'll point and be like, I see you in row 4. What's up? You doing your taxes over here? And I'm just like, I was dying. I was like, you still got it. Because I remember on my show, you at one point you said to the audience, you're only here because mannequins look weird. Like, that's the only reason you're here. I don't even know if I said that, but I was saying all kinds of things, and I don't remember because I don't have the tape. Yeah,
right.
But
I do remember while I was going, I see a lot of unhappy faces here, and I was like confronting them. There's a little voice in the back of my head going, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, you were gonna fuck this up. You got 27 minutes to go. What the fuck are you doing?"
Right.
But it worked, and I just surfed that goddamn wave. It was glorious.
That's amazing.
It was glorious, man.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And there's something that's kept in that they couldn't get out. I said a joke, and I saw this woman's face just scowling at me, and I'm like, "That's all right, ma'am. You don't have to show me any respect."
Right.
Like that. She was so angry at me.
Yeah, that's cool that you went with your gut feeling, man. I had a show once. It was I guess one of the regrets of not going with your gut feeling. But I was really young in comedy. I had done. Did I ever talk about the show with the guy flashing himself and? No. So so
let me get some popcorn.
Yeah. So Joe, just for laughs, has a French division called Juste pour rire. So it's the same thing, but it's in French.
Yeah.
So I do my first gala for them, and they are the French side of comedy, much less now. Well, you can argue that, but it was very show-like. It was very almost
like a variety
almost
show?
like a circus.
Okay.
It was
You know what Pete Johansson told me about, because he's done some comedy in French too.
Okay.
Do you know Pete?
Yeah, I don't know him like that.
Yeah,
but.
yeah. He was just like, he goes, a French, and this is like in the late 90s when he told me, he's like, French humor is a little different.
Oh,
he
big
goes,
time.
He goes, lipstick on a horse, that's funny in France. That was the best way he could describe it to me, and it only confused me.
Well, it's you know what, it's different from
that's
France.
like a pie in the face, like that level of comedy.
No, I think that's more specific. The lipstick,
vaudeville,
right?
Yeah, lipstick. What is that about?
Well, French comedy from Quebec versus comedy from France is different.
Okay,
but it is a lot of French comics back in the 90s would steal a lot of material from American comedians because they would speak both languages. And like no one ever thought that the internet would expose everyone.
Yeah.
It exposed Robert Plant with and Jimmy Page when
Led Zeppelin.
Like they would steal from Muddy Waters and
a lot. The first two albums
from a lot of artists. And I can argue that the music they made is incredible, and was it plagiarism? Probably, and how it was
both.
But it was fantastic.
It was both. It was plagiarism that they put their touch to.
Right, but they stole lyrics, like specific lines,
riffs,
right,
everything.
And what sucks is that they never credited.
That's what sucks. Rolling Stones credited.
Right.
They didn't.
So plagiarism, they never thought, comics would never thought they would, get caught, and everyone thought they'd be able to get away with, with taking English material, and so there's a lot of like that shit going on in the 90s, and a lot of big comics blowing up using American material. And it was really, a lot of it was just fucking hacky, like super hacky.
How do you say what's the deal in French?
C'est quoi le deal?
How do you say who are these people?
So what sucks, what's good is that with the internet, everything became so, like American comedy became so accessible to everyone. So that style of comedy became more popular. And today, like if you go to Montreal and some wonderful French Canadian comics, like wonderful, like really talented. So it's grown tremendously. But now, so when I did that first gala, this was before, the internet really helped comics over there. So I show up on stage. I'm the first comic up. I'm the only one who's like an English comic doing French comedy. So they throw me up first. And the hosts, they do a spectacular literally spectacular opening with confetti, with
fireworks,
with dancing, and they bring on stage 3 strippers.
Okay.
3 strippers who strip for them while they're sitting down. And then one of the guys says, well, how can you, this is ridiculous, we can't shock the audience anymore than we just did. And then a guy runs on stage, flashes his dick for literally 30 seconds. He's just standing there.
Yeah.
And the audience goes bananas, like a roar that you would never hear.
Is this where the horse comes in?
That was the horse. So, and then, okay, we're going to bring up your first act, Daniel Torado.
Oh, fuck that.
And I'm following,
You're following
6 titties and a dick.
Titties, yeah.
6 titties and a dick.
6 titties and a dick.
That's the name of your third album. You're just like... Guess who the dick is, yeah.
And so all this to say that I didn't trust my intuition to, because it was videotaped and because this was going to be on television, I couldn't go off script because I knew they were going to edit everything.
Yeah.
So I couldn't call out what was the, like, it's beyond obvious.
Yeah.
And I had to ignore that like a complete idiot.
That's tough, yeah.
And then it took me literally, I had a 7-minute set. It took me close to 5 minutes to get my first good laugh.
Yeah.
Because they're like, they can't hear jokes.
They just saw a circus.
Right.
There's a lot of visuals,
I had a similar
good, but also like you picked one lane and you stuck with it.
Yeah.
So that is good.
But it's dope that you still went beyond that. You that little voice I ignored and you listened to
that
it.
voice can be evil.
Yeah.
That voice can lead you astray.
Can steer you in the wrong direction.
Well, because for me, I have a tendency to keep it way too real sometimes, and it's just digging a hole. But I also knew that in that circumstance, I was going to play to the cameras and it was going to be fine.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Because they can edit it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, do you have an example where it led you astray?
On shows where they're not taping, I'll just be like, I'll bring up the
Is that
I'll bring up I'll take a chance. I'll listen to Little Voice and I'll be like, I know this is pushing it. I can't think of a real example.
Yeah.
But I'll be like, I'm going to say this shit. It's going to be fucking ill. It usually happens like in the Midwest at like a Funny Bone.
Yeah.
That's where it usually goes wrong. It goes right in New York and LA where people are just dying for the monotony to be broken. But it almost suggests sometimes that I'm telling them that this is a shitty show or something to that vein. And I'm also manifesting a shitty show by calling it a shitty show or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. And not... Some audiences just want you to go up there and have all the confidence in the world and ignore anything negative. And I understand that too. Mm-hmm. But I like to fuck around, man.
Yeah.
I like to keep it real.
Right.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
It's tricky.
So, yeah.
I've done it a few times at Comedians in Drag Doing Comedy. It's a nationally touring show by a very funny comic. And the first time I did it, I just talked about how I was in drag on stage doing comedy. The second time, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do my set. I'm not going to acknowledge that I'm in drag. I'm not going to acknowledge that it's a drag show.
Yeah.
Almost like what you're saying, where it's like, I'm not going to acknowledge that all that just happened and I'm just going to do my set. So it's a little different because I was in drag.
Yeah.
But the second time I was like, I'm just going to do my set because I want to fucking tape it and I want to clip it and I just want to hear the jokes.
Yeah.
And I bombed horribly. Because everyone's like, this is a drag show. You're up there doing comedy in drag and you're not going to address it at all.
Is this why you had
really
to...
funny, though.
Yeah, but I was just like...
I think it's funny, too. And is this why you had to leave Florida?
No, but that was one of the last shows that I did before I did leave. But I had all this confidence. Like, I've been doing... Like, the first time I did it, I had never done it before. I'd never dressed in drag. I'd never done anything like that. So I was like, oh. And it's funny because I look the way I look. I'm from where I'm from. So people automatically assume homophobic, racist, misogynist.
Right.
So I was like, oh, this will be liberating to do a drag show. So I could be like, oh, no, this is really like, I'm like on board. And so the first time I did it, I crushed because I'm just talking about like, isn't this hilarious?
Yeah.
Right.
The second time, it was so... Just cricket. I'm wearing a dress and a wig, and it's just crickets.
I support your second time too.
Yeah,
I think at least you tried it both ways, which is the theme of the event.
Right. But the voice in my head was like, this time we're going to do just jokes.
Yeah.
Don't even address the drag.
Right,
and I was
right.
you fucking lying piece of shit.
That's like performing, doing stand-up, holding a guitar and never playing a note and not even addressing.
I love that kind of shit.
Yeah, I should try that. That'd be funny.
I love somebody
just
walk up with the guitar.
No, you walk up with the guitar, you just hold it, you tell your jokes, thank you.
I've done it like in my open mic days where there was a coffee shop and there was a guitar just lying around.
You just pick it up?
I'd tell it, and I tried it that way, and I also did it like after a punchline, I'd play like a Black Sabbath riff.
Yeah.
Or something. But
I didn't know you could play the guitar.
Yeah.
I kind of can. I mean, I used to play it a lot more, but I'm out of practice. But I knew a couple killer metal riffs. But metal riffs on an acoustic guitar, obviously Tenacious D.
Right.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, it's that brand of humor. It's like really heavy stuff in almost a weak way.
Yeah.
Is funny. But like open mic days, I was just trying fucking anything. I was so uncomfortable up there just for like 5 minutes that I'd be squirming, trying anything I could think of just to break down monotony.
I love open mic days, man.
Some of your favorite comedians are from your open mic days. Yeah. Guys that could never make it because they were so off the wall. It just never translated. Right. That's when it's that's when it's really fun. That's when it's really fun is when you're with, there's maybe like 30 people in your orbit and you're like, I can't wait to see what they do this weekend after what was on the Oscars or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you just, and it's a community and it really does become a comedy club. And then it can get too incestuous where you're doing inside jokes on stage. And then when you get on the road, you're like so fucking confused. Like again, like.
You guys don't know Drew? What's happening?
Yeah.
But you know what I hate?
I went to his house on Father's Day. You get it?
Yeah. I miss the open mic days a lot, and it's exactly how you painted it.
Yeah.
The only thing I remember disliking strongly is when comics would laugh so loud in the back of the room.
Yeah.
And I know it's to support, but most of it was to get the attention.
Sure.
You know how comics sometimes they just laugh so, like.
I feel personally attacked because I have a loud laugh.
No, but it's one thing. It's one thing. But when you hear the same joke, for 5 months, every Monday night, you're gonna laugh really like it's the first time you ever heard. You know, it's like you just want everyone to just look back. Oh, that's the comic who's laughing, who just went up, or who's gonna. You know, it's like. It's that bullshit, man.
The cool thing in New York with the open mics is a lot of I think I've talked about this before, but like comics who are just on the cusp of being passed at clubs have to do their new stuff at open mics because if they bomb at the club with their new stuff, then they're not passed anymore. And so I'll see a lot of these comics that I've seen at bigger clubs come to the open mics. And this happened the other day. We have a thing called New Joke Wednesday, only new material. Yeah. You're only allowed to do new stuff. That's like the rule. Obviously, it's an open mic. You can do whatever you want, but it's it's an agreed upon.
It's
rule.
In your best interest once the rule is established.
Yeah, to do. And this comic who's pretty big, you know, a couple 100,000 followers on Instagram. Like we had no idea what he was doing at the mic, but he showed up and he was like, "Hey, can I get on?" And we're like, "Yeah, obviously, of course."
Sure.
You have to, bottom of the list, but yeah, you can get up later. But we were all just kind of blown away that he was there, and so I did the thing that you were talking about playing to the one person in the room. So I got up and started doing new stuff, and he was dying, and I was like, I don't care about anyone else in this room right now. Like, this guy produces 3 shows. I'm going to just try and kill for him.
Yeah.
But then I've also seen it where people are going through whatever they're going through, and no judgment from me. I've been sober a long time, so I'm always there if anybody needs it. But they'll get on stage, and they'll, like, I saw this the other day, someone almost started crying. And they were like, my career should be so much further along. Like, I was passed at clubs before, and now I'm at a 1 p.m. open mic. Yeah. Like, just tearing the room apart. And this is like an established comic. And I don't want to say who it is, but I'm like looking at the stage like, what are you, like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And I've done that before back when I was drinking, and I could see what was happening, and I was like, this isn't good. Like, this isn't like some small town in, like, the Midwest. Like, you're in New York. Like, this is going to get out that you did this. Yeah. So it's just weird because open mics in New York are a totally different animal than from, Florida or like Oklahoma City or stuff like that. Yeah. No, when I saw what comics that I'd never heard of when I got to New York, I was like, wow, I've never heard of this guy. This is practically an open mic I'm at. Yeah. And this guy's fucking incredible. And then the next guy was incredible. Yeah. And the next guy was incredible. There's this is still probably the best place in the world for comedy. Like
everybody here has got at least 5 minutes that are fucking killing.
Well, and these are all people where they were the best at wherever they were.
Right.
So then they came to New York, and then, you know, the way it works is the following thing. So if you don't have enough I know people who moved from Florida who have over 100,000 followers who still can't get time at clubs.
It's tough, man.
Because they're just like, it's oversaturated. So then they go to open mics.
Yeah, I did a new material night on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it was so fun because it just reminded me of all we're talking about. It was like, I like to write a really short, efficient joke, but when I'm doing new jokes, anything that pops into my head, I'll follow the rabbit down the rabbit hole, and I'll try to. Next thing I know, I'm like asking people in the audience, I'm like, "Can you name the 12 apostles?" Because I can't. And I started to name like as much as I could, and it was a one-liner. There was a one-liner joke that I made like 2 minutes long, and I'm like, I better get to the punchline. I'll even do the joke for you guys. If the Last Supper took place at a sushi restaurant, you know sushi restaurants would now have a drink called For Christ's Sake. And it took me fucking 2 minutes to get to the joke. And I'm like, no, let me do the joke. And it was so fun, dude. It was so fun. But it's a lot more fun when the audience knows, yes, this is new material night.
Yeah. Right. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
And that's something I try to tell like younger comics. And this goes actually back to what we were talking about earlier about the pay. And I wanted to mention this. Younger comics, a lot of comics, in order to get seen in the scene, what they'll do is they'll start their own show. They'll find a bar, be like, what's your slowest night? Let's start a show.
Yeah.
Happens all over the world, happens all over the country, especially happens in New York. And I tell all of them, because I'm like the most, like one of the older veteran like guys at the mics, and I just go because I work at night. I don't get enough stage time. And they'll always be like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a show. What do you think about that? And I go, no matter what you do, charge for it. At least $5.
There you go.
If it's a real show, you have to charge for it.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to this whole idea of, they go, oh, well, I want to make it a free show so like a ton of people come. I go, they're not going to pay attention.
No.
They're not going to respect the show. They're not going to respect the comics.
Yeah.
Like your budget's going to be blown on one guy or girl that you want to headline. Like, charge. You have to charge because something given has no value. Yeah.
$3.
$2, $3. It doesn't matter.
$1 charge.
You have to charge. And then the other thing that it's like so funny about the whole thing is just this idea of like, I don't know, man. It's just weird. This whole like, I don't know. It's just everyone's so good. Yeah. It's fucking nuts.
It's nuts.
It's so nuts.
And now that we have the internet, everybody knows how good everybody is in every town, and everybody's just really going for it. I remember when I was a skateboarder, I would look at all the magazines from California, and we would try to be as good as the magazines were, as all the skateboarders were in the videos, and we would try, and we would get pretty good. And then when I got to California, I saw that like so many people sucked. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like the idea of you thinking that everybody is as good as your favorite comic in Omaha. Yeah. And like just like going for it that hard. Like it has, it makes everybody try that much harder when you can see what everybody's doing. Yeah. Whereas used to be like, you could be like such a big fish in your small pond and just be like the funniest guy in Minneapolis or whatever.
Well, we all have to know those people, right?
Well, but it's a little bit different for me because I've only lived in LA and New York, and so there's so many good people. But
yeah, because I know a couple of those guys, and I love them to death. Some of them are my closest friends, but they're like, "Why would I leave? Like, I pay all my bills. I get to travel all over the country."
You can't argue with that.
Yeah, you can't. It's like, why would I go to New York where I literally would have to start doing open mics again? And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. Like,
yeah.
But there is an answer to that. Yeah. It's so you can get better and like really, really become part of a big scene. Absolutely. That's something. There's a value to that.
There's something to say. Yeah. Walking to the subway today and running into a really big comic that I just had on my podcast. Like, there's something to say that only happens in New York. Like, it doesn't happen in Daytona.
And you're going to be on shows you're going to have to follow big fucking names who are really good. Yeah. And that is
whether you like
crazy,
it or not.
Dude.
Yeah.
This year I followed Gaffigan and Louis C.K.
Yeah.
You know? God. Like that makes you fucking work.
Last year you followed Seinfeld. I remember it got
No. He went up after me. He went up after me, dude.
Okay.
Yeah, no, thank God.
That happens a lot at Gotham. Once I was at Gotham, and Seinfeld walks in, Gaffigan walks in, and Maniscalco.
Yeah, that's heavy.
Bill, none of them were scheduled to appear.
It's a $500 ticket if you're going somewhere else.
That's big time.
It was insane for the audience to see.
Yeah.
And to your point, I think it's so good. You're right to charge, but it's also important to pay the comics.
Yes.
Man.
Dude, well, that's why you charge.
Remember my show in Astoria?
Yeah, that was so cool.
Yo, I was paying comics $75.
Damn.
On a Tuesday.
And you know what that did? That made me go, well, I'm going to prepare for the show. I'm going to give a good performance at this show, not just, I'm doing a spot in Astoria.
And you know what? And I
I
really appreciated that because I had incredible comics just fucking wing it. And I'm like, bro, I'm paying you double than what you would get
the nightly rate on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I asked you, you can fuck around, but bring some of your A game.
Yeah.
But some just like fucking went straight to like new jokes, and some great comics bombed.
Yeah.
And it's like,
name them. Call them out.
and I'm trying to like put something really special and together and something really, and only one of them came up to me, and he was a true vet of the scene.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yo, I'm sorry." And just the fact that he came up to me and had that humility, so classy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's a killer. But
was he just doing new stuff, or he just realized?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if it was his state of how he was feeling, or with a combination of new jokes. But a lot of him just didn't give a fuck, and they just saw it as a show in Astoria. Mm-hmm. And I'm always trying to remember, like, how would I like to be treated as a comic? How would I would love to make $75 on a Tuesday.
Hell yeah.
That's
in a great neighborhood that gives you drinks and food.
Dude, message received when you booked me on that, and I caught the idea that you were trying to make something great in Astoria, that we were making a show that they could see in Manhattan, but they could see it in Astoria.
What happened?
I caught the whole thing. I caught what you were doing.
Yeah, you killed that night.
And I killed that night, and I was nervous because I get nervous a lot anyway, but I was like, I want this to be good.
Yeah.
And that's when you get nervous. Yeah. No, it was fun. It was fun.
Because you care.
Yeah.
Some people stop caring.
What happened to the show?
The manager got fired, and the manager was a huge comedy buff, and they didn't. And the venue was great. Like, it was
cool.
Like, it was like intimate, and it was just a good spot for comedy. They really turned it into something special. But the owners, they didn't have that eye or the love for it. Or it was
the way you guys were talking about, like, oh, we were trying to make it a big show. I'm like, well, what happened to it?
I know.
It was cool. It was like outdoors and indoors all at the same time.
Right.
So there were walls, but no roof.
Oh,
right.
Damn.
There was no ceiling. We could do whatever we wanted.
It was.
There was like
cool.
a tree. Wasn't there a tree?
And the food was great. The drinks were great. There was a tree.
And Astoria is cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to find a room. There's so many rooms, but one where you get treated nicely, where you remember.
That's the other thing too, is finding a room that works. Not only for comedy, because we were talking about this before you got here, but just like some of these rooms where you're like, oh, this isn't for comedy, but the person putting it together doesn't know comedy.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, people like comedy.
You're a professional, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it's like
no stage, no sound system.
And you really get to know comics, and especially like some behaved in a very entitled way. I remember one would say, well, the lineup is, to me, I'm trying to build a show, and the lineup is very specific, and I try to accommodate everyone as much as I can. But then I'm like, all right, this is your set time. Let's do this. Are you okay with it? Yes. I got all and then they show up. They're like, I'm tired. I just want to watch a television show with my boyfriend back home. Mm-hmm. Can I just go up now? And I'm like, but no, it's like there's a flow that I'm looking for. It's like, and they just didn't give a fuck,
Uh-huh.
And some were very respectful, and you really get to know someone, a comic, when you book them.
Oh yeah, that's the real. That's the real
guy. Who they are. They'll tell you exactly who they are.
Yeah.
Fucking. Sometimes you book them, and the day of, they text you, "Hey, I can't make it." No
but
apology.
Right.
Yeah, but sometimes it happens 2 or 3 times. And
right.
You're a flaky piece of shit.
Yeah.
I want to get y'all's opinion on this before we go, because I can be kind of spiritual, but I'm always kind of skeptical.
Yeah.
But I will tell you what happened. I decided 2 weeks ago that I was gonna set a date to tape my special. It's like, it's been a long time. Everyone's just taping their own specials. It's time to do it. I booked the fucking show that I'm going to do it at.
The venue?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, which is great in and of itself, because then instead of all these abstract sets that we're doing, it's like you have to work towards something.
Yeah.
And you also stick to jokes where you go, no, I know this isn't a home run joke yet, but I want this to be on the special. And so I'm going to do it on the special. So I'm also doing it tonight as I'm getting ready. So it's great to have the deadline. But then also the TV project as soon as I booked that, I made progress in the TV project that I've been working on for years. In other words, the production company wants to move forward a little bit. And then also I got a call that I'm doing a European tour in May with Segura.
My man's on fire.
So it's like, it's one of those things.
Save some for the rest
where like, it's been a tough year as far as work. But then when I was like, all right, fuck it. And it was almost like, well, this could be like, how long am I going to go on?
Yeah.
I'm going to tape the special. So I have this special. Who knows how? It's always like this.
Is it before the tour or after the tour?
It's way after the tour. It's next year.
Okay.
My point is, it's like, is this something cosmic, or is it just a coincidence that once you take something on, something big, that, to quote Almost Famous, bold forces, be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
But so what's the dilemma?
There's no dilemma. The question is this magic or is this a coincidence?
I don't believe in coincidence.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidence.
Yeah,
I think that putting it out in the universe, you get it. It comes back to you, which is why I was so willy-nilly about doing my show. It's like, no, I'm going to do it. And people are like, you don't have the money, you don't have the... And it's because I'm doing it. Like, I don't fucking care.
Right.
Like, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Same thing moving to New York, all of it. I don't believe in coincidence. I think the fact that you and I have been... Not just you and I, but you've been talking about setting a date, and I was like, yeah, dude, like, set the date. I'll fucking buy a plane ticket. Like, let's fucking go, bro. And you texted me, and you're like, set the date. And then, like, a few days later, you texted me, like, hey, this is actually taking off. I think you put it out in the universe, and as silly as it sounds, I think once you do the work for it, it's not just wishing for something. Once you start doing the work for it,
something
I think
specific
it comes back to you. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's a lot of... I believe in this. It's your energy field. You know, it's the perfect analogy is, a girl that you really like. As soon as you when you're confident, be it guy or girl, you attract that energy just because you're confident. Yeah. And when you're desperate, you turn everyone off.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's almost like you're wearing a cap saying I'm single, you know?
Yeah.
But it's exactly what you said. I there's a saying I got from a street guitarist I met, Guy Daniels, who I befriended, just a brilliant musician. And I just saw him playing the subway on 59th and Lex one night, and the subway was passing, and I was like, fuck the subway. I'm like, I just gotta keep listening to this dude. Right. And I was like, I gotta get to know you. And we became friends. And he, wise man, and he had this great quote. He's like, I'll never forget this. He's like, there are no coincidences, only high frequency occurrences. Okay. And I love that. I like that, yeah. No coincidences, just high frequency occurrences. Right. Yeah. And that's what I think is happening to you. Yeah. You're tapping into that higher frequency. Right. Where just, the universe is serving you. Right. It's helping you as opposed to you asking for it. Right. Yeah. And it was also a vague request before. It was like, hey, can I get something? Yeah. Well, what do you want, Matt? Something. Anything. But now I'm like, no, I want to do this. And it becomes more specific. Right. And in a practical way, you can just start working towards that goal. But in another way, something happened. As soon as I booked it, I started to feel really good. First of all, that they were just like, fuck, the improvs in Los Angeles were like, fuck yeah. Like, that made me feel good. Man. And dude, I'm so excited. Yeah, no, it's gonna be dope, man. I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited about everything. Power of How out in LA 2024. What's up? We're going to Hollywood, baby. Woo! Talk to us now while we're down to earth. or never. We'll have a lot of material that'll work at the fucking Ned Hotel after we go down.
God, we should book a venue.
Yeah, some warm up. Do
a live podcast.
Yeah, we should. See that? More and more flow. More and more flow.
Yeah, the flow.
All right, I think that's going to do it for the Power of How. We're putting the power in the Power of How.
Fun, as always.
This week. And, thanks for listening. See ya.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for listening to The Power of How. Music by Daniel Torado, artwork by Nelson Diaz. Follow us on all the social medias at The Power of How Podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe, and check us out at patreon.com/The Power of How Podcast. Send us some positive vibes in the form of U.S. currency. See you next week, everybody.